from Poly, Managing Director for EMEA. I'm glad to virtually meet you all. 2020 really tested us all at an individual level, but also at a societal level as well. It was a pretty interesting year, but that year, 2020, will really have set the agenda and shaped the world for many, many years to come. 2020 has dramatically shaped the way that we do business. And we've moved from a lot of certainty to a whole host of uncertainty. We're going to have to work our ways through that in 2021. And as we transform our business to grow not just in 2021, but for years to come. The good news is that you can prepare for doing that. If we look at the various stages that we went through a reimagine stage, we're in a redesign stage, and we're going to look into a reinvent for 2021. What does that mean? The reimagine stage was at the very start of 2020 when COVID hit the world. Things changed. We had to very, very quickly change our business operation, no matter what your preconceptions, and there were lots about people having to be in an office to be productive and businesses to be successful. That was turned on its head. At the flip of a switch, IT departments had to make it possible for people to work from other locations. Most commonly, it was from home. As people rushed to work from home, they took some technology from their offices, but a lot of the technology that was used was sourced from the home location. So individuals sourcing their own equipment, either from the cupboards around their house, but also by buying things typically online. This was a mode of business where we were in survival. We were trying to make sure that the business didn't die, but we couldn't do the way we'd done things before. Broadly, it was successful. We're all still here. So we made it through that reimagine phase. We then move into the redesign phase. And the redesign phase is sort of where we are at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, where the reality is we're starting to go back to the office. It's in fits and starts. We're not wholesale returning to the office yet because COVID is still with us. The vaccines, although they're rolling out, many of us business professionals aren't list 1, list 2 priority. Many of us will not get the vaccine until the middle of this year or towards the end of this year. So we're looking at a hybrid environment that recognizes COVID still in existence. What does that mean? It means going back to the office, but not going back to the office as it was. It's a new form of office, a workspace where we have to manage the social distancing, a workspace where we have limited or almost no sharing of equipment, a workspace where we'll have to look after visitors and look after staff so that they're safe in the work environment, but also are productive in that work environment. Oh, and incidentally, they're not always going to be there because it's going to be a transition and they will also continue to work from home. The third phase is the most interesting, I think, and that's the reinvention phase. This is where we have the opportunity to really power through what COVID has done in terms of the thinking of a business. And it's enabled us to start thinking of new ways. It's paradigm shifts in our business thinking of the old way has to be done in the way that it always was, and looks at how do we use the technology to advantage? What are the new business possibilities available to us? Looking at harnessing the tools, harnessing the technology for the betterment of the business, supporting innovation in our businesses. How do we, as organizations, look to compete in the marketplace and win in the marketplace through that innovation? So that reinvention phase is more long cycle. It's looking ahead at what's possible now that we think about the new ways of business. And it's pretty exciting, the opportunity for us in 2021 and beyond. There are 3 trends I want to talk about that I think are worth digging into that really make a difference in 2021. One is the bifurcation of internationalization. The second one is the resurrection of the prosumer as a category of worker. And the third thing is, what's really happening in hybrid working. Okay. Let me start with the bifurcation of internationalization. The reality is internationalization wasn't always about travel. For sure, there's an element of it that significantly is. But you have to think about it in two stages. One is the consumer travel. The consumer travel is all about the interpersonal wealth. You want to go and experience cultures, environments. You want to see the world. That, I think, is going to come back very, very quickly. We all have a strong desire to get out and see places other than our house or our home countries. So that will come back relatively fast. Business travel is all about commerce. That's the real reason where we do business travel. And I think we're going to see a difference in 2021 and beyond in that element of travel. Back in time, there was an increasing reliance on traveling to do business and closing deals, building your networks. Look at my wallet. You'll see a wealth of cards in there, loyalty schemes. My BA Gold card, which I'm probably going to lose next month because I haven't been traveling quite so much. But I also have loyalty cards for many other airlines. I have loyalty cards from hotels and car rental companies. That's the way that we lived our lives. COVID changed that. Borders closed. We couldn't travel. The travel industry, in fact, is a pretty grim place, even as we speak today. So what businesses are doing are replacing travel with connectivity of people. And it's using technology to do that. And that's where that bifurcation of internationalization is coming from. If we look at the things that are going to drive the continued reduction. It will recover, but not to the levels that it was before of travel. Four items. One is the barrier to global business is increasing. Okay, COVID is the biggest example that we're very familiar with, but we also see increases in friction in international trade. Look at the geosphere of China, of America, of Russia, of the Middle East. Trade treaties have been in place for a while, starting to unravel. The biggest and obviously the one closest to home at the moment is the impact at the moment of Brexit on our business. So the barriers have increased. The other thing we can see is that technology is ready. Now, it's really interesting. I've been talking at conferences for almost 10 years about smart working, flexible working, hybrid working, activity-based working, whatever you like to call it, but it's about location-independent working. Lots of companies said it couldn't be done, and the reason it couldn't be done was because of the way that paperwork or people interacted, transferred, and so it was seen as the barriers to great. Well, COVID has changed that. What we've seen is, and it's no surprise to any of us in the technology industry, but the technology is ready, and it's increasingly becoming available, accessible, and relevant to us. Many people, when they moved out of their offices to home working, experienced the UC tools work just fine. Oh, and incidentally, they're pretty easy to use. Video boomed, audio conference boomed, services boomed. That's going to carry on through 2021. Technology is not a barrier to the modern way of working. Another interesting phenomena we see is reduced costs in travel and real estate. Like my business, we haven't missed the expense of international travel. I've seen a significant drop on my expense line because people are not traveling. Many companies have sought alternatives and found them to be more than adequate. Sales kickoffs, big expense in my case. I saved many millions of dollars last year, and that's down to things like not holding a worldwide sales meeting, okay, in a single location, doing them virtually. Working from anywhere is really possible, and people can be productive. Brings the other question. One is not traveling. The other one is, do we really need the offices that we've got? So there's going to be a wholesale review, I guess, around the world on real estate utilization and real estate needs. Okay, many companies are keen to minimize their expenses in 2021, and they've tasted the sweetness of low expenses on travel in 2020, and they'll be looking at the expense line on real estate in 2021. The final element I just want to touch on that bifurcation of internationalization is on the environmental impact. The way we've worked has changed significantly. And this isn't all about getting on planes, it's getting cars, getting trains, getting buses to and from an office location. That's dropped dramatically. It did so in 2020. It's got to carry on in 2021. So we're going to find that our carbon footprint has dropped dramatically. We're actually doing right by the planet. So you think about the scientists, the visionaries, the activists like Greta Thunberg, all the things they've been saying. Big business is now doing that, and it's doing that because of necessity. But that's a value that feeds our future generations. So that bifurcation of internationalization is one big trend. Another big trend I want to touch on is the resurrection of the prosumer. The line between being a business user and a consumer user has blurred for a number of years, but it went into overdrive in 2020, primarily because so many people became prosumers, not by choice, but by necessity. That growth in the prosumer population will continue through 2021 and beyond. It will become a real germane part of who we are as a society. The rush to home working really had, as I said earlier, people just getting things that needed to do their jobs. What we saw was not everyone had everything that they need. And if you looked at almost a year ago, March last year, and looked at the growth in office equipment spend, it shot up dramatically in March and April. And the reason was people were just enabling their offices. So not surprisingly, a lot of that was done on e-tail as well. So buying behavior has accelerated into a new mode as well. And that's because people were empowered to just make it work from home. IT departments were overwhelmed, and so that self-sourcing became a reality. Prosumers differ from the normal purchasing because they're not IT buyers. They don't think in the same way. And there's a couple of things that are worth looking at how that prosumer purchasing and using is different from the traditional IT purchase. In the first instance, it's the rise of ease of use, self-service devices and bundle kits. People want it to be simple. The prosumer is not an IT specialist, although they may be, in a way, gifted amateurs at it. But what they expect is something to just plug and play, and they're looking for that wonderful out-of-box experience. Okay. While they're working at home, they are still in business, so they're expecting, although they're sourcing themselves, they're expecting the devices that they use, the equipment and the tools, to be enterprise grade. They're looking for the reliability. They're looking for the quality. They're looking for consistency in connectivity. So they have high expectations, more so than typically you would see in a consumer buyer. They're looking for a compatibility across a broad ecosystem because they're being called on, and they're not sure, from one day to the next. They're being called on by different ecosystems. What is it? Whether it be in Zoom, whether it be in Microsoft Teams, whether it be in one of the many other ecosystem vendors that are out there. And so there's a big switch to the devices we use just have to work, and it used to have to work pretty easily as well. The other thing when you look at that professional becoming personal is one size doesn't fit all. Different people have different usage patterns, different environments that they work in. So you end up with lots of different profiles of workers. People who get up and move around a lot, people who don't. People who like to sit. People who like to be isolated from the surroundings. People who like to be inclusive in their surroundings. Those things are personal, almost as personal as spectacles. You have a huge variety of choice of devices, whatever they may be, that people will use to interact. The other thing is that remote working has grown to the point where it's become home workers are a category now. So working from home means that you now need to be looking at, are the devices I'm getting suitable for working from home? So the emergence of working from home kits becomes really important, where everything will work seamlessly together. Devices that are designed for working from home. I talked a little on about the worker profiles and some of the preferences. It might well be that your home environment is a little bit distracting, and you want to be able to concentrate, and you may want a technology that you use to block out surrounding distractions. You may want, if you're using video to just look at you and not pick up all of your background. These are the things that really will drive the consumer, because they're making choices. You're coming into their place of life, not just their place of work anymore. And the other thing is the usage of technology in both personal and in professional. People will move across. They will look for devices that and solutions that be suitable for working in a business environment, but also in their private lives. And so you end up with a new balance of form versus function. What does it look like versus how does it perform? So that rise in the prosumers, it has been going on for a number of years, but boy, did it accelerate last year, and it's going to carry on as we move into that next phase. The third trend I want to talk about is hybrid working. It's here to stay. So although people at the start thought, let's just get home, let's get things working, we're in the survival mode I talked about at the very start of the presentation, now we're all realizing this is the new world. This is going to carry on. You're going to choose where it is that you work. Home works. You can make it work. It is true, however, that there are things like creativity that thrive when we're physically together. So there are going to be needs for being able to go to an office, whatever form it takes. COVID has shown us it's possible for all but the essential workers, manufacturing or so on, can work from home, and it's had a huge benefit to us. One of the benefits is it's leveled the playing field of accessibility to the workplace. Everyone worked remote, therefore everyone was equal in that ability to work from home, the freedoms and the flexibilities that gave. It changed the mindset to focus on work as output, not presence. So it really made a difference to how we think about work, and it brought equal opportunities to all. So whether you want to do part-time working, and the commute might have been something you thought didn't make it worthwhile, now you can work part-time. You work in the evenings if that's what works for you and works for your employer. The other thing is distance really means nothing to unified communications technology. So whereas historically you were as an organization restricted to recruiting from an area, geographical footprint, now you can get from a much broader area, including international. HR in 2021 are going to have to build a new form of people-first culture that really centralizes the working practices of being in multiple locations and not expecting single location working. If you look at how this trend has played out, you can see that hybrid working really has made a big difference. You look at Frost & Sullivan, the first bar, 30 million people used to work as work from homes. Post-COVID, it's up to 270 million, 9x. Phenomenal. If you look at are people going to stay doing flexible working, SHRM did a survey recently, and what it told us was almost just over 2/3, almost 70% of employers are looking at adopting broader and flexible approaches to home working. Okay. Last graph on there is from Global Workplace Analytics, and it shows that employees working from home multiple weeks is the phenomena of 2021. So we're not all going back to the office when we've had our vaccines. That's going to make a big difference in thinking about, so how do we design our offices at home for long-term working? How do we design our offices in the traditional office where we work with co-workers, making them safe, making them flexible, making them desirable to want to be, okay? And so we all have, you, me, and the rest of society has a job to do to think about, let's get ready for the future, let's invest today so that we can capture the opportunities of that hybrid working. The three pillars of hybrid working, when you think about your design, is the work practices, is the workspaces we use, and the culture. The work practices are all about thinking about the work patterns. How do you foster improved collaboration? We can collaborate using unified communications technology, but what are the best tips, tricks, and techniques? How do we optimize the technology so that we get the most return on that which we make? The workspace is very interesting. I've talked about the home working setup, what the co-working spaces look like. Do we really want people to be commuting? If it's actually about getting together and collaborating, maybe satellite offices. I think we'll see the rise in the satellite office in 2021 and beyond. And then, of course, there is the culture, empowering leaders with the new techniques. It's really about managing output, not about managing input, harnessing the technology to allow people virtually work together, and then connecting people at an emotional as well as a functional level. Poly, we've been running hybrid working in our organization for many, many years. We have a report on it. I'd encourage you all to look at it. It gives you insight and statistics from leading experts, not just our views on the world, on the fields. That'll help you to capitalize on the new ways of working. I'd encourage you to come and visit our booth. You'll be able to get copies of that report. You can also get consultation as you're thinking about your UC journey. We've done it. We've spoken to experts as well, so we've built up a wealth of expertise on this, and we're very happy to share it with you. So we do free 20-minute consultations for anyone looking to implement unified communications. How do you go down that journey? If you like, what I'd like to suggest as your call to action is, after this, if you wish, you can join the virtual networking and you can ask any questions. Clearly, it's difficult to ask questions here on any of the trends that I've covered with my colleagues. You can also visit the conference sessions. We have a few others that we're doing on unified communications, Prosumers, artificial intelligence and machine learning and collaboration, very interesting. Customer experience technologies, how they impact the user experience. Lots of learnings that we're willing to share with you today. The other thing I suggest you do is go and have a look at our virtual booth. Lots of things to see in our virtual booth. And we've got demos of our new latest solutions, fantastic things to see there. I'd like to thank you for joining me at this session. More than ever, everyone at Poly wishes you and your colleagues a healthy and successful 2021.